All right. Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? Good. Well, hey, I love this room, Craig. It's really neat, pretty cool. And I'd love to use it as well as just an opportunity for us to have a conversation. Now, a lot of times, a lot of people get up here and say, I want to have a conversation, and then they just plow through a whole bunch of stuff. I have a few things I want to share, but I also want to leave some time for some questions. And then I'll do my best to answer those if you have them and try to help out. So my objective today is really to talk about 2026, freight in 2026, and what are we all going to do? How are we all going to think about it? How are we going to plan for 2026? And I've got a few ways to do that. I am going to share some J.B. Hunt specific ways that we think about budgeting, and then also some things on how we're doing it. But I want to back up a minute and really talk about, the budget process and ask a question first. How many of you are in your budgeting process right now? Yeah, we are too. And then in your budget process, I think you probably look back at how you performed to budget so far this year. And how many of you are beating your budget this year? All right, a couple. Good job. Congratulations. It's been a tough year for a variety of reasons, a lot of change. And when you think about our business and transportation, I mean, that's what we live in. Things change every day, every month, every year. That's just what we do. We adapt and we go through it. But as we think about budgeting, we still have to set a plan for 2026. We have to set that plan, and we base that plan on what we know today. And so we're going to talk about a little what we know today. But first, let's go back to the base case. So just a base case budget. I don't know about you, but when I think back the last couple of years, I've been predicting things are going to change. I know a few of us have predicted things are going to change. And what I mean by change is this industry, our industry, has been in an oversupplied, low demand environment for multiple years. And you all have heard that before. I know in the conversations you have, whether it's with J.B. Hunt, with each other or other carriers, we've been in a deflationary rate environment and an inflationary cost environment. Well, we also know that this down cycle has been going on for a long time. And so with that, a lot of us came into, whether it was maybe 23, maybe you were really aggressive and said, things are going to change. 2023, I'm going to build my base case budget. Things are going to change in the back half. Well, it didn't. And then we said, okay, well, heck, this cycle's so long, and all of us who've been in the business for 800 years are like, oh, this cycle can't go on. Things are going to change. 2024, here's my plan. It's going to change in the back half. Didn't happen. Well, a lot of our customers that I talk to also feel and understand the same thing, and they're thinking the same way. So we roll into 25. Things are going to change. Didn't. Hasn't. This cycle just continues to drag on. So when you think about your 2026 budget and how you're planning, I bet your base case is probably going to now be something similar to what it has been the last couple of years. And I wouldn't blame you for that. Cycle's long, sure, all the stuff. There might be some other data that could change it, but our credibility as planners and forecasters and things like that and our reputation is really challenged right now. Our leadership teams are saying, well, hey, you said it was going to be this and it hasn't, and you built in this and it didn't come, and blah, blah, blah. So they're going to challenge us like they always do, and we always are challenged by our customers to lower our cost and think about how we budget for next case. So my bet is you all are going to be budgeting for something similar to what has happened the last couple of years, not much change. And I'm saying in transportation costs. Okay, so that's the base case. You're going to present your budget, and if you do it like we do at J.B. Hunt, you say, okay, here's how we finished in 2025. Here's what we're thinking about for 2026, all the cost categories and other things. Here's my green arrows, my up arrows, and this is what I think is going to happen. And then this is where I would make a recommendation. If you take anything away from this discussion, it's this. If you've never built a contingent budget, I would build one for 2026. So you have your base case. We just talked about that. And then a contingent budget. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we have our budgets, we also go through the tables and all the stuff I just talked about. And then we have another slide. Typically, it's one slide, and we talk a lot about it. And it has 2 columns on it, and it's risks and opportunities. Risks that could impact us to the negative, and opportunities that could give us upside to beat the plan in a host of areas. So I want to take just a few minutes and talk about risks and opportunities and share a little bit of context from a J.B. Hunt perspective too. But when you think about risks, and these are known, I want to hit on regulations, capacity, and cost. And so let's just sit on regulations for a minute. And again, this is for the contingent budget. This is for the budget that says, okay, I need to understand a few things. And these are just things that I think about. You all can have others. Understand some things that say, okay, I'm going to need to do things differently and model some what-if scenarios if these things change and impact us. And so let's just sit on regulations for a minute. And you all are fully aware of the changes going on in English language proficiency, B1 visa enforcement, as well as the rule changes associated with non-domiciled CDLs. And I believe you're fully aware that this administration operates at a speed unlike any other we've seen before, and then a commitment to follow through on law enforcement or rule-making changes that they have, like none we've seen before. So I believe that the commitment and impact of enforcement here is going to be meaningful. Now, you can say that. What's it really mean? Well, from FMCSA's own analysis, as well as some that we've done, when you stack all of that up, all of the enforcement on those issues, as well as the rulemaking, cutting off the non-domiciled CDL supply, and also eliminating basically the renewal of those CDLs, which will expire over the next 2 years, the impact could be a reduction of capacity of 4 to 8%. That's over 200,000 to 400,000 drivers that will not be driving. Okay, now I want to make a statement. This could be pretty controversial. There's no driver shortage. There's a driver pay shortage. And what I mean by that is if all these things happen, and I believe they will, and I'm not going to say it happens tonight, tomorrow, I just said over time, if that reduction of capacity happens in the driver talent, and we need more talent to backfill, then what are we going to see as an industry? We're going to see, like we do in every job that we have in our company, a competition for talent, a competition for qualified, safe drivers, and also that competition could attract new entrants to that job. That's what markets do. And so you say, okay, well, if that happens, then why is this really a risk? Well, it's a risk from a cost perspective because we are going to have to pay more to get that talent. And here's how you're going to know it. Here's when all of us are going to know it. It's when you start to hear the ads or see the ads for $10,000 signing bonuses. We're increasing driver pay. All of those things, when you start to see and hear that, you're starting to see change. So when you think about regulatory impact, that's going to be one on capacity. And then another one that really gives us an indicator of what's happening, and Craig, I appreciate you posting the SONAR chart out on X. X is so vibrant right now for kind of what's going on in our industry. But on X, this particular SONAR chart, and I think you're going to see it many times in other SONAR data today, but I loved this one because it really perfectly illustrates a quick impact and quick reaction, and the correlation really between tender rejections and spot pricing. When one goes up, the other one goes up. When tender rejections go down, spot pricing goes down. But what you can see on the far right-hand side is really right after Secretary Duffy made that announcement, you started to see that correlation break down. It started to gap in a way that we haven't seen before. And that's something to pay attention to. Now, I'll also say this, I get the privilege of talking to a lot of customers in my work, and appreciate all of you who are doing business with us today. And I ask our customers over the last few weeks, have you felt this tightness? Have you seen that? Have you felt this? And the answer is no. There might be a couple or a couple of spots where that's been the case, but the answer is no. And our customers, go back to this reputational risk all of us kind of have, our customers will only believe this risk when they feel it, when they experience it. And what's that mean? Well, that means freight getting left on the dock, not getting picked up. Nothing changes until that happens. They have to feel it and experience it to believe it. So that's kind of one of the bigger risks that I see. And then also I want to talk about cost. Now there's a whole bunch of numbers up here. This is ATRI, or American Transportation Research Institute. And they do a study every year. And this is well known in the conversations you all have about cost and the cost to operate a fleet. So this is their analysis and their key categories of change in cost year over year. And I want to dial into a few key components here. I'm going to click right down to this one and really just hit on what have costs done from 24 to 23. Well, they went up 5.1%. What have they done in a 5-year CAGR? And this is just crazy, 7.2%. And it's in the key categories of equipment, insurance, pay, maintenance, all of that stuff. It's not just one thing, and it's structural. And so when you think about the risk to your base case, I'm going to make just a thought that if I was building a contingent budget, I would budget for the potential for a sharp increase in cost as carriers really try to close the gap in their rates and their inflation. Again, this is your contingent budget. Okay, now that's kind of the harder stuff. Risks are always harder to think about. I'm more of an optimist. So let's kick over into opportunities. And from an opportunities perspective, I want to talk about 3 areas, and really areas that at J.B. Hunt, we feel the need to focus in on, and it is AI and automation, being predictable for our customers, and then also capacity. Capacity is a risk and it's an opportunity. But when you think of AI and automation, our tech strategy includes basically the opportunity to leverage AI and our infrastructure and our previous automation work to make sure that what we have and is empowering our people and making it more efficient for our customers to do business with in a more predictive and intelligent way. And so on our last earnings call, I appreciated my boss, Shelley, highlighting some of the work that we've done in AI, and it's probably been not talked about as much as it should have been, and I'm the marketing guy, so that's my fault. But Shelley really outlined where we're at, and we've deployed in our business across all of our functions, basically 50 AI agents. We've also automated workflows that takes, and I'll give you a few examples here. Our carrier check calls, and by the way, we have about $2 billion worth of transactions that flow through, carrier transactions that flow through JB Hunt 360. We have about 60% of our check calls automated right now. We also, and this is something we've done for a while, we have had automated order acceptance and booking to where about 73% of all of our orders today are auto accepted and auto booked. And then another big stat is 80% of our payments don't require any human touch. So that's progress, but we've got to make more. We, again, have an initiative to lower our cost to serve. In that ability to do that, we have focused in on streamlining workflows. We've taken 100,000 hours of work out of our dedicated highway and our customer teams. That's a lot of work, and we're just getting started. We also today respond via our dynamic quote API. We respond to over 2 million quotes automatically every year. And so what are we doing from here? We're trying to leverage RPA, we're trying to leverage AI, we're trying to leverage other aspects of streamlining our workflows to reduce our cost. So it's a comprehensive strategy. And we know if we can do that, then again, we'll become more efficient for our customers. Okay, now, another area that I want to talk about when I think about being focusing in on our capacity, this is an area all of us can work on. I think it's a big opportunity. And there's a lot of uncertainty. I just talked a little bit about that. But there's also this opportunity to continue to eliminate waste in our businesses. And waste for us, there's two key areas, is time and empty miles. We've talked about time for a while, so I want to talk about empty miles for a minute. Anybody get excited about empty miles? I do. All right, good. A few people in the back, thank you. But when you focus on empty miles, here's the opportunity. Not every shipment needs to be treated the same. And what I mean by that is there's different demand signals that drive and demand timing for each shipment. But as an industry, we kind of drop these big blankets of expectation and performance across our supply chain. We need to be 95% on time. Every shipment needs to be 95% on time to the hour of the appointment or to the minute. But that's not true. So one of the areas I think we have opportunities is to continue to dissect and create with technology the ability to understand the flexibility. I can still be 95% on time, but maybe this shipment has 24 hours of grace to show up and deliver. Well, that creates flexibility to further use AI to optimize fleets and workflows and also pricing. That if we can eliminate empty miles, become more efficient, and we can share part of that back with our customers, and then hopefully as an industry get our returns back to where they need to be. And then the last one I want to talk about is predictability. And predictability comes in operational excellence. And if we are in this changing environment, if that actually does happen, then one of the areas that we really focused in on and launched, and I'll just use the example, and again, when you think about a tightening environment, mode conversion, as you would expect from JB Hunt, becomes a very hot topic. Converting from the highway to intermodal. Well, there's standard business today that's on the highway that should be going intermodal, and the only reason it is because highway rates are depressed. That's easy stuff to flip over. But there's also things that are structural that we believe we can expand the intermodal market by taking freight that goes direct to a customer, the most service-sensitive freight, plant to customer, not plant to DC and DC to customer, doing DC bypass with our quantum product. And we have proven that now for over 2.5 years. And so the opportunity to reduce total cost, inventory carrying cost, distribution and handling cost, as well as modal cost at high service levels that I'm going to say are not truck-like, they're dedicated fleet-like, creates a competitive advantage for the shippers that are doing that today. And that creates predictability in capacity and cost. So what I've done is just outlined a few of the ways that we think about things at J.B. Hunt, some risks that all of us may be facing, and then some opportunities. And what I'd like to do is just take a minute first. For those of you that do business with us, thank you for doing business with J.B. Hunt. And if you have any questions, I'd love to take a few and see if I can answer them. We've got a small group here, so you guys can fire away. Great. Yeah, I do believe right now that this capacity bubble is deflating at the moment. And we've been in this oversupplied market, but we've also been in a low demand or declining demand market. So I think that has masked the impact of even, let's talk about ELP enforcement. Well, that was announced earlier this year. And I'm thinking, okay, hey, well, this could be a game changer. Now, some data shows that there's been 19,000 violations recorded, and maybe 5,000 drivers put out of service, but we haven't felt it. And so I do really think that there needs to be, and historically our industry has kind of come out of one of these cycles with more demand. It's been demand driven. And in this case, I think that is masking. I think the SONAR data or CAS data, like we talked about, overall truckload volumes are down, call it 10, 15, 20%, depending on how you look at it right now. So that is definitely kind of masking the potential impact, which also could, if, let's just say that gap on the chart continues to widen, or any chart, well, then it creates the inverse magnitude of change. It represents the magnitude of potential change in the inverse relationship. And I believe markets always correct to the mean. So that's kind of how we're thinking about it. Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. I love autonomous trucking. We partner with pretty much all of the major technical and manufacturers in leveraging autonomous tech. I love it really for the number one reason. And I also go back to how I appreciate what this administration is doing by focusing on safety. To keep all of us safe, leveraging that technology. And that's even a big part of what we deploy in our equipment and spec. And then also using AI to kind of help our drivers understand where things are having challenges with inward-facing cameras and all that. We want more of that technology on the trucks, in the trucks, to keep us all safe. However, I still don't know the widespread adoption of that technology from a regulatory and general public perspective. And again, it goes back to, I know we've got a great pilot over here, and a lot of his airplanes, the ones that he dreams about, can all fly by themselves today. But he's going to be flying for a long time. And I think drivers are going to be in the cab for a long time. Good question. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, I love that question because what you just talked about is there's a broad-based tech strategy. It's not all AI. And two things that we've done this year, we deployed Microsoft Copilot and basically gave it to all of our office employees this summer and had multiple training on that. And that part of it is going to show up what I think is incremental productivity improvements, just incremental. Where the agentic AI comes into play, I'm going to give you one example, is really even deep into our cybersecurity work, trying to be more predictive and insightful that allows our teams to identify threats ahead of time and then also to take action. So I think there's the AI world, and I just look at this as a journey from prompt. That's what I'm doing in Copilot. I'm asking questions to predictive, to what that agent is doing in our cyber infrastructure, to then in production, to where it can actually do work for me. We are exploring agentic AI in our customer teams and sales teams to try to drive conversations via email and voice that can get us to more of a discovery and opportunity faster to help us grow. But I'm with you, it's very early. Okay, am I out of time?
Greg has one more question for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a couple things, and again, customers in this room, you need to be thinking about, obviously, continue to expect the best out of your carriers, the best in execution. Also, work with your carriers on building out business plans that consider those contingencies and have an open, transparent discussion about what if this happens. What does that mean to our relationship? What does that mean to our cost? How can carriers continue to drive predictability of cost? Because that's what you all have to do when you're signing up for your budget, is say, okay, I've got a confidence level that I'm going to be able to deliver this, is really working with your carriers to drive predictability of cost in key categories. And then if things do change, and again, we're a big broker costs are going to change. If things change here, then how do we offset in other areas? And that's the part where I think having just open, transparent conversations and having both of us have a base case and both of us have contingency plans if things change. Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you all again. Ben, you got, yeah. Well, I'll just say we would love to go through that planning cycle I just mentioned with every customer. And then again, we announced in Q2 $100 million cost takeout, structural cost takeout of our business. Because even with inflation and everything going up, we know the pressures everybody's under, and we've got to find ways to lower our cost to serve. We have 20 million of that realized. We will hit our 100 million and more over time. And that's something you all should challenge us on and think that would be an opportunity for us to continue to be the most efficient answer for you. And again, I could talk more about that. Appreciate that question, Ben. Okay. All right. Thank you all.